What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Absolute Awesome Show, episode number 19, first of 2016. Cliff, you're unmuted. How's it going?
It's going great, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for the new year. Rocking and rolling the way we do every once in a while, part-time.
Yeah,
And
part-time
just,
enough.
just all the cool stuff. I think this is going to be a good year, Kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, that was an excellent, great explanation there. It was fantastic. Chris,
I was
you're up.
imitating
What's up?
CJ. I was imitating Joey Ramone, talking about CJ Ramone being in the band.
How did we miss that? How did we miss it? Chris, happy 2016. What's going on?
Happy 2016, fellas. Did you guys get these yet? 700 million drawings on Saturday.
No, I'm in Virginia.
What?
I think the Powerball is in Virginia, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
okay. Is it nationwide? Okay. Well, wouldn't it be cool if I won? If I won, we would be able to tour as our job.
Yeah, if you won, we'd never hear from you again.
Most of the lottery winners are from the South, and generally are young mothers or teachers. So that odds are in your favor.
Because I'm a young mother and a teacher?
I'm saying Christy should go out and get a ticket, and it'll be like, oh, 22-year-old Christy Walker.
She's 30.
Whatever. I know.
22.
She does look 22. I agree. But hey, and she would like that.
All right, so Chris is going to be a half a billionaire in a couple hours. Josh, how's your 2016 going so far?
It's been great, man. We're the first week in, right? Today's the 7th.
Yeah,
so
it's only 7 days in. Yeah.
Week into 2016, I started it the way I start every year, where I jump into the Ocean City penguin swim, and then we go to this bar in Ocean City, and this has happened 4 years in a row now, where I walk in and the DJ, who I only see once a year on New Year's Day, although he works in Ocean City year-round. I just never run into him except for New Year's Day. But this DJ sees me and he's like, yeah, man, we're going to do I Want to Be Sedated. I'm like, all right. And whenever he does it, I jump up on the bar and air guitar and, do my thing.
Do you strip?
I don't strip, but no, it looks like the girls who work there are like, yeah, give me more, but they're not. They're like, come down. They do it every time, and if you follow me on the social media world,
the people get increasingly annoyed looking. They get more and more annoyed from like every year.
Every year,
the video.
I think they
do.
How
do you how do the bouncers not come and put you in a headlock, give you a couple shots?
Well, it's the beach and it's winter. We don't really have bouncers.
Are they always like, Josh, we tell you every year, Coyote Ugly is just a movie.
I'm not doing any kind of moves like a stripper. I'm up there, supporting the Ramones, basically, and just enjoying my one little 2 minutes of freedom away from Justin Bieber and stuff that they're playing the rest of the time. But, it's fun, and it's all good. But good point, because I did notice that this year they were definitely trying to get me down a lot sooner than in previous years. So I think they caught on. It's been 4 years in a row. Anyway, yeah, off to a good start. And
cool.
And Chris,
you know what you should do next year? Next year you should bring your guitar. And when you jump up, don't do air guitar. Jump up or do air guitar, but with a real guitar. And that would be extra special. And it would blow their minds.
I know. It would blow their minds too much, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, a little too much. Well, the last show we did back, a whole year ago, a whole 7 days ago, was with you two guys, and you were in Europe, kind of getting ready to wrap up a tour with CJ Ramone, and we did a good amount of talking about how that was going. You guys had a good time, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, we were, I think, at like the third to last show of the tour in England,
Wasn't it like 2 in the morning over there, or 4 in the morning, or
Yeah,
something
well, when
crazy?
we were done, it was after 3, I think. When by the time we were all done, it was, and yeah. So I don't even know like what I said that night. um, it
Better
was
make sure CJ doesn't watch.
well, I'm sure he didn't watch. If he did watch, he would have surely came downstairs and um, joined us or beat us
It's
for
on YouTube
saying something
forever.
wrong.
It's on YouTube forever.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe he watched it. I didn't get yelled at yet, so I don't think I said anything wrong.
No, we're good.
You, on the other hand, Cliff.
Cliff, on the other hand, never play guitar for CJ Ramone. He made that very clear. The next
Oh,
day.
no. It's not that I would never play guitar with CJ Ramone. It's that there'd have to be a real set list that is the same, and that I can
No,
depend
I mean,
on, and that I can memorize the set.
Right.
Because I believe in being able to be so good at what you do, and it's not based on what you feel, but you make yourself feel great by that play, that awesome play you put on every night, and every night it's a little bit better. It's like an actor. I think there's a lot of really awesome stuff about that, and that's something that not a lot of bands do. And so I think that's very cool to have that kind of a situation. I think it makes for a better show, except for the people that see you night after night after night. Then it's the same thing every night, but still.
Here's the other side, and not to get off on a tangent because somebody's waiting to come on, but
There is?
a
Who's waiting to come on?
lot of the people that were coming to our shows were coming from. We had one guy that came to like 6 shows in a row.
Well, then he should have seen the same dang show every 6 nights in a row. That would have been fine. He would have been like, "Man, this is the greatest show I've ever seen. It's the same every day, except for every time it's better because they can memorize it with you."
I don't
I don't know, man. I think it kind of really it keeps it fresh, and it keeps it so that we don't ever get to a point in the set where we're going through the motions because we're mixing it up every night, and it's
Did that ever happen to you? Did that ever happen to you on tour with us?
I think early on when the set was the same thing for like 2 years straight or something.
No, we never did that.
No, we did the same set for a while though, and it was like there were certain songs I just didn't like playing as much, like chord-wise. Not that they're
Right,
not
you
great
used to say
songs.
that about like Goddess and the Geek, and I'm like, dude, stop paying attention to the chords. It's the song. Listen to the melody. Have fun. Let those parts, let those hooks and everything get inside you. You think the Ramones were playing the same 3 chords every time, around and around and around. It's the
No.
melody that makes it all different, not the chords.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's I'm different when it comes to that because I like mixing it up, but at the same time, back in
And
those
that's why you play
early
guitar
on,
with CJ Ramone and I don't.
I guess so, yeah. No, but back in the day with Huntington's, like a million years ago, playing like I think we played Guilty early on,
Yep.
and 1985 and stuff that were like just songs that were not so much as far as like fun rocking out songs, but everyone loves from a crowd perspective. They love those songs. So, well, in 1985 anyway, they love that one. I don't know about Guilty.
I don't know if we ever played Guilty live, but 1985, people always loved it. I never enjoyed playing it,
Yeah.
but that's okay. I mean, a lot of the songs that you find yourself enjoying or not enjoying can be made more enjoyable when you learn, hey, I can play them somewhere different on the fretboard. That can allow me to put on a better show, do more crowd interaction. And
Yeah.
when you're doing crowd interaction and all that stuff, and it's about the people in the audience and you yourself connecting with the melody and showing that and everything and all of that, it brings a certain feeling to you that just really makes it just feel super alive. And it's not about, oh man, I just played this song last night. It isn't. It just isn't. And when you play the same set, it's like it's that ability to get it's even better tonight. It's not as good tonight. The crowd didn't bring it, and so some of it you feed off the crowd, but sometimes you feed off the music itself. And either way, it's just really great. I like it. I think it's impressive when a band you can tell a band has, and this is how we got where we literally all had our set memorized. We knew what was coming next. We didn't even need any set lists on there, and it was just like that's impressive, and it's just bam, 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 and yeah, and you can't do that when you're just like every night. Oh well, what are we gonna play next?
That's a good question because we've actually have a show booked for next. Well, Josh, I was about to say next year, later on this year.
It's 2016.
It's 2016.
Actually, like just over half a year from now.
Just over half a year from now. So we've got to figure out a set list.
Yeah, maybe we can do that. You know, maybe we can figure out a set list we can memorize, and we can rehearse enough that we can have it memorized.
What would be the easiest way to memorize a set list? What would be the easiest group of songs to put together?
Why don't we play an album from start to finish or something? I don't know. We've never done that.
How would it be easy to memorize a set list?
That would be easiest, to play an album from beginning to end, I think.
Just put it on.
That'd be pretty easy.
On your iPod and just listen to it over and over and over.
Yeah, really, any set list you make nowadays, with the fact that you can just listen to it all the time and play along with it and just all that kind of stuff. You just even, I mean, I hate the show that we played in Baltimore at the punk rock Willy Dilly thing that we did. See, that's a good name. That's what he should call it. The punk rock Willy Dilly thing.
Yeah.
That'd be a good title.
Definitely good for promotional purposes.
Once again, agree to disagree. But go on.
So I mean, I practically had that set memorized. So and even just practicing anything just over and over and over again, you get to it. But
right.
Anyway,
I think we should give it some thought and make it special for that thing.
I think so too. I think that would be awesome.
We'll see what happens.
So you're saying we're not going to play the same old songs we always play for the last 15 years?
I'm just trying to think of the easiest way to memorize a set, just from beginning to end. And when I think about beginning to end, I get certain thoughts going into my mind, and we'll see what happens. So, but we got no one can see him, but we've got a guest with us, and I think it's probably a good time to start talking about him and get him in here and get him talking.
Well, who is he, Mike?
Melnick. Monte A. Melnick. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? I don't know. So, Josh, wanna give us some insight on who we've got as a guest tonight?
Well, okay, we got Monte A. Melnick, who, unlike any of the Ramones other than Johnny, Joey, and I can't even say Arturo. I mean, I would include Arturo as a Ramon, but I'm pretty sure Arturo said that he missed a show or two because he was in jail somewhere, I think. But I'm pretty sure that's what he said. But I don't think Monty missed any shows. So I'm going to say, like, other than Joey and Johnny, he's been to more Ramon shows than anybody. And also managed them. And I could be wrong, but the only time I think he didn't manage them was when that guy in Rock and Roll High School was their manager, and that wasn't even real. That was a movie. It should have been Monty.
So I don't think that technically counts. I think we
should bring him on so that he can clarify.
Are you talking about Ron Howard's brother?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't the manager, but he was in that. He was in that movie.
He was in it. Yeah, that goofy-looking guy. Yeah.
Clint Howard. Yeah. But I could be wrong. I don't know, man. That's just me, my thinking. That's not me having any. I have nothing written down here, so I don't know.
No notes.
I'm totally wrong on that stuff, but I'm really excited. And let's. Can we? What do we got to do?
Yeah, Monte A. Melnick, pretty much career tour manager for the Ramones. We're going to go ahead and bring him in. Monty, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and say hello to the world.
Hey ho.
Hey ho.
Hey ho, Monty.
Let's go.
How's it going, sir?
Happy New Year, by the way, everybody.
And a happy New Year to you.
I'm happy to be the first person on the show. And by the way, this is the winning ticket, guys, for the North.
12, 19, 20. Let's see those numbers again. Let's see those numbers again.
Splitting them up. We'll split them up, Monty. Me and you.
So what Monty's saying is he's a single female teacher from the South.
Well, we're not going to win because we're from the North, and nobody from the North wins. It's always from the South or from the Midwest, and it's always either people that are senior citizens, like 100 years old, they win, and then single mothers, they win. So
except this time.
All right. Well, I'm
Hey.
pulling Monty.
So,
Besides,
by the way, let me just, I did miss, well, I wasn't with at all the shows. There's the 1976 two shows I missed, and that's about it. And Arturo and myself were the only ones with the band from beginning to end. And he's dead, so it just leaves me alive, the only one alive that was there from the beginning of the Ramones to the end of the Ramones. So,
Right.
let's
So
talk about that real
we've
quick.
all seen that picture, you know, that oh crap, what was the name? You mentioned her name in the pre-show. Yeah. So
Yeah.
her picture, you know, of the famous picture of the first album. We've seen. Have you seen the picture where there's like just the wall? None of them are there.
yeah, well, that's when, you know, when they died. It's kind of like a sad
Take one
tribute.
away, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we have, in the beginning of the show, we had the picture with you included in there, but we need to probably just, there needs to be one of just you, I guess, right?
Well, I wasn't in the band, but I worked
I
with
know,
them.
Stick you in there, and then we'll, you know, and then we'll put.
I was a tour manager, by the way. All right, that's why I ended up being the tour manager. In the beginning, I did everything, and then the bigger they got, the more people we were able to hire. So I ended up the tour manager.
So Monty, I want to start from the very beginning because not as many people know the ins and outs of your relationship with the band, and I think it's fascinating. So from the time, let's start from square one. How did you end up meeting up with Tommy and the rest of the guys? Just take us through it.
Well, for those of you who haven't read my book, I grew up with Tommy. I went to junior high school with Tommy. I went to high school with Tommy. I was in bands with Tommy well before the Ramones. I played bass. He got me to play bass. So I knew Tommy for 50 years. He was one of my best friends. So that's how I got him. And then, you know, eventually I played bass in several groups with him, and then I got together with a group called 30 Days Out, and we got signed to a record contract in 1971-72 on Warner Brothers Reprise, 30 Days Out. We did 2 albums with them. And eventually I did a few years with that. We opened up for the Beach Boys and Tom Rush and Quicksilver Messenger Service. That broke up after a while, and I came back to New York. And my cousin was installing locks in lofts downtown on 20th Street, and this woman had a loft there. And she was managing an act, and she said to my cousin, "Do you know anybody that could come in and maybe help build a rehearsal recording studio?" So at that time, I brought Tommy into with me, and we designed the studio. And we built it, hand-built it, and then we got some time to go over our own little projects at the time. I had my own bands at the time, and Tommy at that time was just going to produce and manage the Ramones. They were a 3-piece band at that time when they came in to rehearse in the studio. And Tommy saw that Dee Dee was having trouble playing bass and singing at the same time, and he heard Joey had a good voice. So he pulled Dee Dee off. He pulled Joey off the drums and then put him up front to sing. And they started looking for drummers, and they couldn't. No drummer could really get what they were about. In the beginning, they were very, very raw. It was an insanely raw band at the time. So nobody could really get what was going on. Tommy is a great musician. He kind of sat in and played, and eventually they asked him to join the band. That's how I got involved with them, and I started doing showcases, doing the sound for them at the studio there. And they all of a sudden started getting gigs outside, and they said, "Oh, we'll come out and do the sound for us." And one thing led to another, and the studio closed down, and all of a sudden they started getting all these shows all over the place. So I jumped ship and started doing everything for them in the beginning, roadieing, swapping equipment, doing the sound. The bigger they got, the more people I was able to hire, and worked my way to road manager, then tour manager at the end there. After 22 years, of course, we're talking about.
So in '77, that was when the Ramones went to the UK.
76, they went to the first time. They went for 2 shows. I missed that. They couldn't afford to take me.
But did you help?
I didn't get it. What'd you say?
Did you help set that show up? or either one of those? Did you have your hand on any one of those? Because
No,
that
I was just the crew, just doing the sound for them. I wasn't booking them or anything. Danny Fields was the manager.
Right. Very cool. So I'm just going to ask the next one. For anybody that doesn't know, just what does a tour manager do? What were your jobs? Because there are many of them for a tour manager.
Well, the bigger the group, the more people they have to work for them. The bigger groups have tour managers, road managers, production managers. It depends. Basically, a tour manager, what I would do is the booking agent would come to me and say, here's the tour. It's this city, this city, this city, this city, this city. So the tour was my job to make sure we had hotels. Then I'd call the promoters and make sure, advance the shows, get all the rider down, all the elements in the rider, make sure I sent them the rider and they went over that. Made sure the crew knew where the place was, got directions to them. Then I'd pick up the money at the shows. I paid the band, I pay the crew on the road, tour buses and truck drivers and everybody else. I basically you're responsible for not just the crew, but the band and the crew. So I not only had to deal with a crazy band, I had to deal with crazy crews, which doubles the fun in my life there. That's part of the job.
Right.
So that's one of the aspect of a tour manager. Then you deal with with the record company setting up interviews. I also dealt with the band when they did recording. It brought in crews and made sure that the recording went well, and video shoots. It's a big job. It's a lot of work. Many different aspects to it. I learned that from the beginning because working with them, starting off doing everything. That's how you do it. People say to me, "Is there a school to go to?" No, really, just get a band and start working for them, and then you work your way up. You see what goes on, and you see who to deal with and what to do.
Now, in the early days when you'd go up and it's time to settle up at the end of the show, and how frequently would it be where you weren't getting paid what you were supposed to get paid?
Well, very not very often, because we had a good booking agent. That's the important key, to have a good booking agent. So the clubs didn't want to fuck around, and I'd tell them, you ain't going to get any other groups here. You don't pay me. So it never really happened. Once or twice they kind of were wavy, but then they realized they better not, mess around, because we had a good booking agent, and they wouldn't, the booking agent would put out, this club is not good, they don't pay. And they wouldn't get any work or other groups coming in. So that was a good thing that happened. So I never really had that happen very often. Maybe once or twice they gave me a hard time, but I never always got the money. Also,
so pretty much
the gun helped. No, just kidding.
Yeah. so pretty much from the get-go, then they had an agent working for them. It wasn't like some guy just volunteered, hey, I'll get you some shows, it was always a legit operation.
Well, we were lucky enough, once we got signed to Sire Records, then Danny Fields and Linda Stein, you had to get a booking agent to book the tours. They weren't going to do it, and then Sire had enough pull to get a decent agency. We went through several different agencies before they figured out the right billing to put the Ramones on, which wasn't opening up for groups. They had us opening up for Toto and Black Sabbath. We opened up a few times. That didn't work out too well. They didn't want the Ramones. Basically, had to headline the shows. It was very difficult them opening up for another group. So that's they basically do the headline tours.
Yeah.
So you started with them in the beginning, obviously.
The beginning.
Right. And you were there all the way to the end.
All the way to the end.
I got a couple questions for you.
Yes.
One, whose idea was it in the band to put the No Melnick sign in the I Want to Live video?
That happened later on, way in the 80s. That was what happened was.
I know it was an inside prank, and the crew used to put it. But whose idea in the band was it to actually put it in the video?
It was funny that they were always playing practical jokes on me,
Right.
So that He thought that was funny. No Melnicks. Don't go into the dressing room. So they decided to go run with it, and they stuck it up on their videos. They actually paid to put it up in Times Square. I don't know if you remember that video. It was up on the Times Square thing. They paid to do that. It was just a joke. I found it funny. You know, nice. That was a crew thing.
And so obviously,
what happened was the crew would start writing it on the walls on all these clubs all over the country. You know. And in the ceiling, and so people would come to me and they said, "Well, we played the club, and we saw your name, No Melnick's, up in the ceiling, the rafters there. What's going on?" You know, it was like crazy. They were writing it all over the country. You know, the band thought it was funny.
That's awesome.
That's also another part of being a tour manager. You got to kind of take the stuff. You take the stuff. Don't let them get friction with each other. You take all funny jokes. It's okay. You know.
No, Monty, when we were on tour with CJ, we heard, just countless stories of you being the butt of jokes and pranks, and a couple of them stick out to me. What was like the grand, like the king prank that they pulled on you that just sticks out in your head, like you just laugh about now?
I don't know. You know, they put honey on door handles at a van. That was funny. They got a big laugh out of that. And nothing really. It was all, high school stuff. You know, it was like silly, stupid stuff. You know, that's okay. They could do it to me because that got the pressure off them. It was okay. You know, I mean, I understood what they were doing and I took it. You know, it's fine. Do it. You know, you had to understand that. That's part of the job, being tour manager, road manager. You know.
Who was the one that was always setting you up?
Well, Johnny was a big instigator on that, and Mark too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now you said you took it because it would take the pressure off of them. Now, would you have us believe that those guys had some tension between them, that maybe they needed to take it out on you instead of each other? Do you really want us to believe that?
You haven't read the book either. Huh?
It's a sarcastic rhetorical question. I apologize.
Well, you know, yes, they did have tension, but they were able to keep that under control. They realized that what they were doing musically and on stage was well worth not going to blows and hitting each other or really getting into any conflicts with each other. So they basically, it took a couple of years to get to that point. They realized they didn't hang out socially, you know, Johnny and Joey, and then they kept it to themselves basically, and they realized that making the albums and going on stage was what they were meant to do, and that's what they were there to do, and it was something very big, and they realized that. That's why they stayed together. I mean, how many marriages last 22 years? You know, I mean, it would be Johnny and Joey. Right. It's like a marriage on the road. You guys know what it's like on the road. You're stuck together. You kill each other at certain times. You know?
Right. It's real. You almost with us. It was kind of a situation where it would tend to end up being two people against two people. You know, and it's always over the dumbest stuff that doesn't. If you could step back, you realize how it's not over anything. Now, obviously, the Johnny and Joey thing was about something. It was about a girl. So really, yeah.
But I mean, that's rock and roll. I mean, you know, Eric Clapton with the girlfriend who stole the girlfriend from whatever. You know, it happened. That's rock and roll. It happens. They knew that. So it happened, and they had to deal with it. They dealt with it by basically not killing each other.
Right. So
I gotta say, man, like that really puts I don't know why, but like it just puts a different perspective on it when you say, like, you know, take it on, give it to me, don't take it on yourselves, and then the band goes on for 22 years, you know.
That's part of being a tour manager, road manager. You got to be diplomatic and deal with those things the proper way and realize what's going on.
Dude,
and if they're going to take it out of you, fine, you know, fine, that's okay. They didn't do anything horrendously awful to me, so I mean, it was just jokes, practically. They got a big laugh out of it. It wasn't too horrible.
The only thing that I heard that I really felt bad for you was the story about, like, they put rocks in the hubcaps and made it seem like it was something was wrong with the van, and you got up and took it to the shop in the morning, and then.
Well, that was, you know, that was a little, that annoyed me a bit.
I mean, just because you got up early to go to the shop or whatever, I was like, how could they do that to him? Because like, wasn't Mark or someone was like, well, Monty, you're gonna have to get up early and go fix that or something.
Or sometimes we pull over to the side of the road to take a piss. Everybody had to take a piss, so I'd get out, and then Johnny would jump in and pull the van up, and I'd get to the van, he'd pull the van up away from me, keep on pulling it up the road, like that was funny.
Running after them.
That's just pranks,
Now this
pranks,
is the 40th year of the Ramones, right? It's 40th or 50th?
The first album.
Right. So, are you aware of anything? Is there anything planned for this year?
Yeah, it's going to be a big year for them. There's going to be a lot of stuff. Tentatively, the Queens Museum, along with the Grammy Museum, is doing a big show, and this is tentative now. It looks like April through June, July, called the Ramones. Welcome back to New York, the Ramones. It's going to be a big exhibition in the Queens Museum here in New York, and it'll be traveling to the Grammy Museum in L.A. and several other cities. So they came to me, and I have a room full of like posters and so it's in my book, posters, tours, passes. So it's a big exhibit. A lot of my stuff and other people's stuff about the Ramones. It'd be very interesting. All memorabilia about the Ramones.
Mm-hmm. Like, is there a special album, unreleased anything, compilations, anything coming up?
They pretty much put up compilations up the wazoo, I think. I don't know how many compilations they could put out. There might be a book by, Linda, Johnny's wife. The Ramones Corporation right now is run by Linda, who's Johnny's wife, and Mickey, or Mitch Hyman, Mickey Lee, Joey's brother. Those are the two people that run the Ramones Corporation. They might be putting out another photo book or something out like that. I hear CJ's putting out a book. Yep. Everybody puts out a book. Too much competition with me. I don't like that.
Now, Monty, I was wondering. I'm sorry, Cliff.
That's okay.
There's a Ramones museum in Berlin. There's the Ramones Casa Club in somewhere in South America, I think.
Mexico. There's a Ramones club in Mexico. Yeah, but that's such a strange thing for me. Of all the places, it should be a Ramones museum here in New York City, but it didn't work out. Like the last show, Ramones in New York,
Well, there used to be. It was called CBGB's.
No, I'm saying I figured it would. I honestly thought that they should, Mickey or Linda should kind of do something with Arturo's Loft and kind of turn that into a museum, that was just kind of one thing off the top of my head. But why is there no museum or an ode to Ramones in New York City of all places?
It was, the Berlin. You guys been there, the Berlin Museum?
We just played there a few weeks ago.
Great place. A Flo guy is great. Flo Haller.
Sure.
He's a terrific guy. He happened to have a huge collection, and he decided to open a museum, and he did it. And I'm happy. I like the place. It should be here in New York, but just a matter of money. New York, to get a space in New York is horrendously expensive, and to man it and stock it, it should be here, but whatever. I'm just happy it's somewhere.
Yeah, like Flo basically was a huge collector, and really he was paying for storage for all that stuff, and he was like, why am I paying for storage? I might as well make this stuff a museum. And
he actually had to move it once. He had it in one location, and he had to move it out of there.
Right.
And then finally got a nice location. I love the place. It's terrific.
He drove. He was our driver when we were out there for the first almost 2 weeks or week and a half of the tour or whatever. And that was one thing he said was he was telling Chris and I why don't you guys open up a Ramones museum? Why is there no museum in New York? It's really not that hard to open up a Ramones museum, because he has experience opening a Ramones museum. But I'm like, I don't know how to open a Ramones museum. Get out of here.
In New York, it's expensive. Even the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had a museum here for a brief period that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very expensive in Manhattan to open a place.
Well,
do you still live off of what you made in the Ramones? What do you do?
Are you kidding me?
No, I mean what? How do you live in New York? It's expensive.
What do I do now?
Yeah.
What do I do now? I'm the audiovisual supervisor at the New York Hall of Science.
Oh wow.
What is that?
Cool.
Explain what you do.
I take care of we have an auditorium there, and I run the shows in the auditorium. We do private events, movies, 3D movies. Then I have we have 3 different buildings there, and I take care of the PAs and DVD players and stuff like that all over the place.
I'll be in New York soon. I gotta swing by.
Yeah, it's in Flushing Meadow Park, right where the U.S. Tennis Open tournament stuff is. Cool. It's an old building from the '64 World's Fair. But I mean, after the Ramones split up, I worked with other groups. I worked with Ron Spector, Degeneration, and you know, that was like 30 years on the road at that time. And then I moved over to the Queen's Theater in the Park as a company manager, which is like a reverse tour manager. I was there for about 1.5 years. That was interesting. That was like they hired me because it was like a reverse tour manager. Instead of going out on the road, I take care of all the acts that were coming into the theater. You know, hotels, hospitality, and blah blah blah. And then I moved over to the New York Hall of Science because I knew about PAs and working with auditorium stuff and lighting and stuff like that.
That's cool.
So you would never go back out on the road. Nothing could get you back.
It's not at my age. it's intense. You got to be really healthy, and it's a hard job. It's very taxing. So I enjoy what I'm doing right now. I've been there 12 years, and I'm happy, and I get benefits. That's the important thing. And I need the benefits.
Well, how old are you? You don't look old enough to be elderly at all. You look like, what are you, 55?
Thank you very much. You'll get the check in the mail tomorrow.
You really don't look old at all. I mean, but I guess you have to be up there with how long you've been doing this.
Well,
but
I'm as old as Tommy was, and figure that out.
Well, Tommy did not look like a young man at the end there.
Yeah, well, he got great. I take a lot of vitamins. I'm 66 years old.
66. Okay. Yeah. That's not old, man.
Well, it's older than 55. No, you don't.
Well, yeah, maybe it's the hat. I don't know. You don't look old at all.
Yeah, well, I
know you're like 3 years younger.
Right.
Vitamins.
All the Ramones looked really young. I mean, even toward the end. You guys found the fountain of youth somewhere.
It's called rock and roll, man.
Yeah, I mean, what do you consider young? 30s or something?
Well, I'm saying even in '96, at the last show.
Well, they all kept their hair on. None of them went bald.
Well,
except for Mark, but still.
You said that. I didn't say anything. You're in trouble now. You know, he's got an XM Sirius radio program.
There you go. Well, so how do you feel about where we are today in music and the Ramones' legacy? And it's almost
it's totally amazing. I mean, it's like they're so much bigger now than when I was working for them. I'll have to say this. I say this all the time. This is my old line. If the Ramones were this big when I was working for them, I would have gotten a big raise. I would have been making a lot of more money. I mean, it's nice to see that. It's a shame that they don't see that. You know? I mean, their name is so much. I mean, they talk about the Stones, Beatles, the Ramones.
Right.
I mean, I work in the Hall of Science, and I say I work for the Ramones. Oh, the Ramones? Well, we know the Ramones. It's amazing how big they are.
Right. There's people that have never even listened to their music that just wear their shirts, or models that wear their shirts and don't even actually know what it's about. They're a part of popular culture now.
It is. I mean, I enjoy that. I like that, the fact that their name's out there, and it's just a sad fact that the 4 originals are not here to see all this stuff that they should be getting. You know?
Yeah.
They should be here for all this. We've been touring now, you know.
Right, and none of them, they all went early. That's what's really crazy. Tommy lasted the longest, but the amount of cancer that went through there. And, I mean, how do you personally deal with the fact that they're gone? Do you just miss them a huge amount?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a sad fact. Tommy was my best friend. I knew him for 50 years. Seeing someone that's your peer, that's your age, dying like that is horrible. And seeing people younger than you, like Joey and Johnny, pass away before their time. And, of course, Dee Dee he went the rock and roll life, you know, old Dee. He lasted longer than I thought he would last. When he left the group, I thought he'd be the first one gone. But he lasted more than... He was smart. He actually kept it together. And, of course, the last time he decided that I'll do it one more time, and that was a mistake. But the other guys, I mean, Johnny, unfortunately, could have. You guys got to go get checked up every year. I hate to say this. Go to a doctor once a year and get checked out. Johnny was the kind of guy who would. I don't go to the doctors. I eat healthy. He ate healthy. He exercised. The problem is he didn't go to the doctors enough, and he had prostate cancer, which is you don't know you have it. If you get checked up early, you can get rid of it. He got it too late, unfortunately. Joey had lymphoma. He was always had.
He was always sick. Right.
Yeah. Johnny could have, and also Arturo could have I don't know what happened to him. He's like climbing mountains and exercising, and I don't know. It was, maybe he didn't go to the doctor enough either. It's just crazy.
Well, I'm 46. My wife's always after me about that too. What is it? It's supposed to go every year when you're 50. Get the old woohoo
every year when you kind of once a year. Period. No matter what age you are.
They don't necessarily do that test every time. So. Like it's, you don't.
But they can catch a lot of things early. I mean, Johnny could have been caught early. Johnny had. I know a few people that have it and got caught early, and they're still around. I mean, by the time he got around to it, it was too late.
Yeah. So being there the entire time from beginning to end, you witnessed the ups, downs, and everything in between. Just what was the highest point? I guess the most the best time I guess of that you had, and then what was the worst? What and why I guess.
Can't really say that. You're talking about a span of 22 years.
Yeah.
Basically, that's why I wrote the book. I mean, I go through all the ups and downs in there over the years. What went through? I mean, there's so many ups and downs. That I can't say one specific thing.
All right. Well, let me ask you about something specific. All right. Let's go where let's talk about how it was from someone really close and in there, but not of there. That would be you, really close in there, but not in the band. Practically in the band, but not in the band. So how was it for you when, say, Mark got kicked out for drinking or drugs or whatever it was? And then how was it, especially for you, when CJ was so off the, when Dee Dee was so off the rails that they ended up, because he got to the point where he was playing, and he wasn't even caring about what he was playing, and he didn't.
What do you want me? There's two questions there. What do you want me to answer? Marky thing first. How was it?
Yeah. What was it like?
Marky was out of control. I mean, he was drinking too much. He had a big bad problem, and the band realized that at the end, and they caught him in the studio hiding booze in the bathrooms, and it was a bad thing, and they had to get him out because he was just totally. It was too much of an alcoholic. So that was an inevitable type of thing that had to happen, The Dee Dee thing was, he was just had enough. I mean, he wanted to do other things. He didn't want to be there. He was talking about being in the Ramones army. I mean, that was, Johnny controlled things. He had to do things a certain way, He wanted to do his own things. They figured, let him do his solo album, the rap album. Maybe that'll get off his mind and he would be better in the Ramones. He just wanted to do that. But then he showed up once, for instance, at the airport in a jumpsuit and the gold chain and stuff and the hip hop outfit going to the Ramones show. And Johnny flipped out. He said, you can't do that. You're not a hip hop artist in the Ramones. And he just had enough. He just had enough. And it was a sad thing that he was dragging him down at the end. Because he wasn't playing.
Was there ever talks about Dee Dee coming back? I mean.
No, because once we got CJ, he gave life to the band. It was great. It's like having a young Dee Dee. And the best thing about it is Dee Dee stuck around and wrote songs for them. So we had the great songwriting of Dee Dee and a young Dee Dee as CJ. And CJ they had to suck their stomachs in to keep up with them. He gave them all those years, which is great.
That always kind of seemed awkward to me, though, having Dee Dee left the band. But still writing songs. I mean, who arranged that? He made money. That's how arranged. He needed the money.
He was making money writing songs for Ramones.
I guess, what was that? Johnny had to swallow his pride and say, "We need you to write these great."
No, he left the band and said, "I'll still write for you guys." You know, it was an amicable split. He just wanted to do his own thing and get out of the band. You know, he was on stage. He was like letting himself down. He wasn't playing properly at the end.
But then when he started doing his solo albums and trying to almost capture that Ramones sound again, even then at that point, well, I guess the Ramones were over at that point. Yeah,
what do you mean, after the Ramones, after the rap out they put out, or?
Well, no, you know, he did like Zonked and all, but I guess that was all stuff that was after the Ramones were done anyway.
Well, you know, he still had plenty of songwriting stuff in him, and he wanted to do his own thing and be his own man. And Johnny was very controlling, you know, and Dee Dee didn't like the fact that towards the end that he was being controlled too much.
But like specifically, how was he controlling? Was it like, this is...
You got to wear this, you got to do this, you got to come to the rehearsals, you got to do, you know, it's very... I give him credit, he kept the band together.
But I mean, that's all like, when you look at our band was built the same way. It's kind of like when you're built on a look and a sound and a whole thing to present, how can you present something other than that if that's what you are? I totally get that. But so,
what's the question?
No, but like, so like, did that happen a lot where people would just like, they would be in this but then they wanted to kind of, that's something that, and I ask you this because that's something that we wrestled with a lot too. We were a band that had we kind of built up to a certain point, and there was a whole look and a presentation, and inevitably some new member would want to break away and present how they wanted to present, but that's not how we do it. And that's the same kind of fight that they all dealt with everybody, or was it just between CJ?
Basically, if you look at the first couple albums on the songwriting, it was Ramones. There wasn't any individual stuff. Right. Eventually, over the years, they took Joey and Dee Dee said, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We want credit for what we wrote, you know what I mean? Because Johnny he had a lot of involvement in the early albums with the songs, but eventually they wrote a lot of stuff, and Joey wrote a lot of stuff, and then they decided, so that the later albums, you notice their songwriting credits were individualized. So that's another thing that came up. So Johnny had to give in to that. You know, in the beginning, Johnny just everything's Ramones. We're all together. We write a song. You write that. I write we all get credit. And that didn't, you know, over the years that fell apart. And you know, Joey wanted to do his own things too. Obviously, his own solo albums, but he never was as vocal as Dee Dee was at the time. You know.
You know, though, it's funny though, because certainly you look at the history of the output that they put out. It's undeniable that their first 4 records are their best. Like, and that's when everything was a all for one for all. Especially the first 3.
Well, I enjoy all the different albums have little aspects of wonderfulness to them, you know.
Well, sure, but I mean, you can see kind of like record companies, producers, music of the time, all coming in to affect it over the years as it went along. But those first few albums are, I mean, they still to this day they stand up like. It's why everybody who builds their bands on that sound, that's what they all sound like.
Well, the first album got into the Library of Congress. It's immortalized. It's incredible.
It is. It's everything, and it's so funny because they did it so quickly, and everything from the guitar tones, the drum tones, the mix, and everything is just such a. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. It just is.
Yeah.
So did it get to a point anytime where, I mean, obviously we just went over Dee Dee's departure and why that was. But for the guys that stuck with it, well, I'm specifically talking about Joey, Johnny, and Mark. Did it ever get to a point where they just didn't want to do the touring anymore, but did it because that's just what they do? Like, you know, I really would rather not be doing this, but that's what I do.
That's where they made the money. They didn't sell albums. They had to be a touring band. That's where they made the money. So that's what they did. They went on the road. They did merchandising and touring because they didn't sell a lot of albums. So they realized that. That's why they toured all those years. 2,263 shows. That's a hell of a lot of shows, man.
Yeah, I mean, but did that get? I would imagine that wore on him as being
Oh
like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I don't want to be doing this anymore.
'96, Johnny said, I've had enough," and Joey said, "I've had enough," and that's why they retired in '96.
Yeah, but that's pretty incredible though to go that long, you know, and that many shows until the time you say I've had enough. Like there was never a time in the '80s where even if they didn't follow, obviously they didn't follow through with it because they kept going, but there was a point where they said, you know, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore.
To tell you the truth, you guys are musicians. When you go on stage and you're playing your music, this is from a musician myself, and in a band, being on stage myself. You go on stage and you're playing that song, and the audience is feeding back to you. You're getting some sort of amazing high. It's incredible. It's amazing. You guys can understand it? I can understand it. It's like a drug. That's why a lot of musicians come off stage and they keep the high going, so they take drugs, whatever. That's an amazing thing. They realize that. They would go to all these countries and be idolized by all these fans. I mean, they step on a stage, and it's a drug. That's why they stayed together, and they were able to put out their albums. So that's why they stayed together, and they realized that. They had that thing that they didn't want to break up.
Kind of in that same breath, though, like they're idolized in other countries. Did they ever hate coming back to the U.S. and touring? I mean,
No,
because you look down.
I love the United States. He always liked the United States. He hated going to the other
soccer stadium in Argentina, and then they come back and they play Coney Island High.
Well, that's the
You know
that's the sad thing about the whole thing. They get a little taste of what it's like to be a huge supergroup in Argentina or in Brazil and South America. Then they had to come back and play, you know, small clubs again because in the United States the damn radio didn't play them enough. You know, they couldn't get to the big.
Ever dread the fact that we're doing Argentina and Chile and all these amazing places that they draw 20, 30,000 people, and they come back and it's like, all right, well, we got to do a Midwest tour coming up now.
No, they're troopers. They realized they wanted. That's where they made the money on the road. You know.
Gotcha.
Now, and along the same lines, though, did you ever reach a point where you were like, I've had enough. I don't want to do this anymore?
Me?
Yeah. You were there the whole time, man. And you did. The thing you said is that they get on stage and they get that high, and they get that fix that drives into the next one. So how about you? Did you feel like
I got a lot out of it by being there and getting them there and having the crew there and having a great show. You know, that was part. I was part of that. Another reason I wrote the book is to give people an idea of what's underneath a band. People go to a club, they look at the band, they're playing, the band's playing, everybody's having a good time. They don't realize what's underneath. There's crew underneath. There's a sound guy. If the sound guy's crappy, the band sounds bad. The light guy's bad, the band sounds bad. The guitar tuner's bad, the band sounds bad. They don't realize what's underneath the band.
right?
You know?
Right.
So that's what I try to put out in my book. The foundations behind the band too. There's a lot of things other than the band being on stage.
Right. So you're
As far as me being, there's certain times I told them to go fuck themselves.
Hey, we're also on
Can I say that on the
right now.
you can say anything you want. You're talking to guys like we have all this band experience, but we don't have the experience that you have. You were part of something that was an entire it was an entire show. The whole thing was traveling, right? All of our experience, we've done a ton of traveling and played a ton of gigs, but we never had our own sound man. We never had anything. We just went and showed up, and whatever the club had, we had to deal with. That's our experience.
The Ramones, right from the beginning. Hey, there he is. I see somebody that I recognize.
Monte.
The big guy.
What's up, buddy?
What's happening? How's it going, Cliff?
Hey. That was a great interview I saw you do on this show, by the way. I watched the whole thing, all 3 hours of it.
Oh, gee.
I got a lot of stories.
I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Yeah, you were talking about. We were talking about. You said right from the beginning, and you were talking about the whole concept of we're gonna.
The band realized that that was important to have a sound man. And one of the first things they bought was a PA. They bought a PA. They were into sound. They were really into what they wanted to sound like, you know. And then there's specific amps they bought, and drums. They were very focused on the show and the sound, you know. And then I started off with them doing the sound, and eventually they needed a professional sound man. We brought in professional sound people, so they were very on top of what they wanted to do, the show, and everybody thinks it's all simple. It wasn't simple.
No, but like what CJ's doing now with the touring that he does, where he's literally at the mercy of whatever a club can deliver. That's our experience. So this is neat because CJ's now doing something where he doesn't get the whole big package along with it. So he's at a disadvantage to a degree.
He'll get there. He's got a good thing going.
He does. He does. But I mean, that's the experience that we're used to. So
eventually he'll be big enough, and he'll hire me for a nice fee, right?
Well, the other thing too is these days the average club the gear that the average club has is a lot better than it used to be. I'm sure part of the problem with the Ramones is back in the early days, they'd show up to do a show in a club, and the PA was, something that could not handle what they were putting out. So
that's exactly the thing. They had a certain thing they wanted to put out, and they had to have their own sound, and they had to buy a PA and bring it on the road with them to do their sound.
Yep. By the way, how do you know how many shows the Ramones played? How do they know specifically and definitively exactly how many? People were keeping track since the very beginning?
Well, number one, Johnny wrote down a lot of the shows, and I have calendars too. So his goes to a certain date, and then the rest of them I have calendars, exactly every single show that we played. So I added, if you look at the book by Bestman, he lists the shows in the back, and I added on from where they left off to the end.
As I was in the band, Johnny always carried this little, it looked like a small-sized marble notebook, and he would write down every night where we played, the name of the club, the city, and the attendance for that night.
And how much they made.
Right. That's really, when you think about to have the foresight to do that, even when you're first starting and you don't know. So all the shows, including the early gigging at CBGBs and everything?
Yeah, he had them all down.
That's amazing.
Cliff, you also have to understand, you know the story about how they got the name Ramones, right? Dee Dee took it from Paul McCartney. They eventually took it on because they thought they were going to be as big as the Beatles. So it makes sense that Johnny would have been so meticulous at recording everything. I think probably Johnny and Tommy from the beginning were probably the two most convinced that they were going to do something big.
But see, that's really funny when you think about the fact that nobody really even knew how to play their instruments. And then they still had this idea that they were going to be so huge just on the idea. And we don't even know how to play. We don't know the names of chords. We don't know anything. But it's so funny because then you actually see them and he's playing full bar chords with the minors and the majors, and actually what they did was so cool.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how that could all just be an accident like that.
Yeah. Well, it's not an accident. They worked on it. It took them a few years to get their act together. Didn't happen overnight.
Right.
Monty, how much of like buying the PA and the the professionalism, how much of that came from Tommy, and how much of
Tommy totally.
Yeah.
He was all behind that. First of all, Tommy was doing engineering before he came and worked with me in Performance Studios. He worked with actually Jimi Hendrix. He was an assistant engineer on several albums and Hendrix did in the record plant, and he was always into gear, and he knew what he was doing, and he actually was all behind that. Tommy's, the base of the Ramones is Tommy, basically. I mean, he really had a lot to do with the sound.
I've really tried to let people know that in interviews and stuff that I've done since the Ramones retired is to get that out there, because Tommy's role really had been minimized. Even in the Ramones documentaries, Dee Dee talks him down.
It's a shame.
Johnny didn't talk him down, but Johnny kind of dismissed him a little bit also. But privately to me, Johnny told me that Tommy was the guy, that Tommy really set the Ramones on their path. the only reason why he left was because he couldn't handle touring, and probably mostly because Johnny tortured him to death on the road.
Well, also, I mean, Tommy really didn't want to. He wanted to produce them. He wanted to manage them. He didn't want to be in the band.
Right. That's one of the stories that Johnny told me, was that Tommy sat in on drums because he couldn't find a drummer to play the style he wanted to hear, so he sat in until they found one.
Yeah, Tommy made up that style. That's why it was so hard for other drummers to come in. When Marky came in, it took him a little while. Tommy had to sit down and say, "This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not a drummer. I'm a, you know." And that's why when Richie, not Richie, but when Clem tried to come into the band immediately on a no notice, he had trouble. I mean, he could have worked into the band.
Yeah.
But he was just shoved into the whole thing too fast. And his drumming style didn't fit in. I mean, he would have fit in if he had a lot of time. Tommy worked with Marky over a certain period to get him to do that. What Tommy was doing was a guitar player playing drums, really. He just felt the whole style.
I heard a really funny story from a fan just today on Facebook who has a recording of the first show that Clem does with the band, where Dee Dee and Johnny are actually playing faster than the drums, and Clem has, like, halfway through the first song, finally catches up to them.
Yeah, he wasn't used to this.
They didn't play with the drums?
They didn't play to the drums. No, that
Oh my gosh!
He would play 2 shows, and it was a hard. I mean, the thing about the Ramones, people think it's so simple. It's like, that's what Gary Kerford said. I mean, when Richie left, he said, "Don't worry, you can play. The Ramones are simple. Go, Clem, you can play it. You can do it. See, so don't worry. It's so easy, It ain't that easy because it's so fast, and any little thing is gonna show up, right? CJ, any little ding, any little thing is that. So that's what happened. He didn't have enough time to really work into the band.
And once you get lost or get behind in a Ramones song, you have to wait for that entire part to go by before you can jump back in, because the changes come so fast. And it's really, and I used to get the death stare from Johnny at least every other night. I'd make a mistake and I would just literally stop playing because I could not jump back in. I'd have to wait for the whole part to go by and then jump back in.
The death stare. You got it right. He had a good stare, let me tell you. He had a stare.
It's basically at the audience the whole time until someone makes a mistake. And
I had no idea they did not play with the drums at all. So when Johnny's playing, he's not listening to the drums at all?
I think because Johnny and Dee Dee were completely untrained, their approach to music was so non-musical. You know what I mean? They both were almost robotic in the way that they approached music. So Johnny and Dee Dee know what the speed of the songs are supposed to be. So they just got up there and played them at the speed that they play them, which is usually like right at the edge of what they were capable of. And if Clem wasn't with them, they were just leaving them behind. And it's really funny. And this guy on my Facebook, if you go on, you can see that the guy writes the review on the show a little bit, and he says Clem finally caught up to Johnny and Dee Dee about halfway through the first song.
It was painful, those 2 shows.
Yeah. That's what I've heard.
3 months to manage because Richie left. Did he leave in the middle of a tour?
Yes.
So, I mean, how much of a nightmare was that for you?
Big nightmare.
Have to cancel any shows or what? Was it?
I didn't get that. What'd you say?
I'm sorry. What? He canceled in the middle of a tour, right? In the middle of a string of shows.
We had a lot of big shows coming up. We had like the Ritz in New York, a huge New York show coming up, and he just went to disappeared.
So did the guys have a show? I mean, the next night or
no, not the next night. I think we had to cancel a few shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got Mark back in the band that quick?
Well, it was he came back fairly quickly. He had his act together, which I was very surprised about because he was a heavy alcoholic, and he really cleaned up his act. And I had seen him play with Richie Stotts and King Flux, I think it was. Yeah. And I talked to him a few times, and he had it together. And then I went to the band. And I said, Mark's got it back together, and luckily he did, and he came back and he fit right back in. That was lucky.
Now it wouldn't be difficult to find a drummer who plays the Ramones style because you have generations of Ramones fans out there. But when you're talking about the mid '80s, at that point there really weren't a lot of younger people influenced by the Ramones yet. I mean, there were, but not as many playing in bands as there is now. Now you have so many musicians, so many bands. It's as difficult to find, but back then, and in a pinch, and in the middle of a tour, it must have been a really stressful situation.
Right. In the '90s, you got an entire subset of music that we were a part of. That who can be the most Ramones, and we were the winners.
I mean, look at the auditions that I went through for Dee Dee's spot. There was Monty. How many people auditioned for that spot?
Oh, at least 20 people.
So there you go. You know what I mean? They basically went to Clem Burke for 2 shows and then back to Marky just because they knew the chances of finding somebody that could pull that style off was 0 to none.
Wow, yeah,
Marky had
actually,
pulled himself together at the time. They're very lucky at that.
Yep.
I knew this was in there. I had to find it, but you're absolutely right. There's a really good book out there, by the way. It's called On the Road with the Ramones. You guys should read it. And in the back, there's all the actual shows are on here, and it says that the Richie quits. That's August 12th, August 28th with Clem Burke, August 29th with Clem Burke, September 4th, Marky back.
Yeah.
So literally less than a week later, Marky back.
Yeah, they realized Clem wasn't working out, and then Marky was around. It was lucky.
Crazy.
And he just jumped right in, and he didn't have to build up the endurance or anything.
No, he was playing with other groups. I say he was playing with Richie Stotts and King Flux. He was out there playing with bands.
But he wasn't doing this.
What's that?
He wasn't doing he wasn't doing eighth notes and stuff
No,
like that.
but he's a great drummer. I mean, he was all those years of Ramones. It's like riding a bicycle. He got back on the bicycle. Come on.
Right on. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of this book,
I thought Richie was a find.
Richie was great too. I
thought Richie was a find for the Ramones because I always liked Richie's style. He was an aggressive player, and now that I've met him and played with him, I understand he comes from a metal background like I do. But he's an aggressive player, and he's he sang, he wrote songs. I was like, oh, this guy is really gonna
he fit in very well. He was good. It was good.
But the only thing is with Richie is he wasn't on any albums where the production shows that he sounded like a regular Ramone drummer. Because all the albums he's on,
Too Tough to Die. Too Tough to Die to me is a comeback album because pretty much End of the Century is the beginning of mediocre to me. And then
producers taking over.
Right, exactly. And then Too Tough to Die, you get is it Ed and Tommy?
That's Daisy and yeah.
Ed and Tommy again. And to me, that's a comeback record. The songs are great. They're aggressive again, and their style has kind of taken on a little bit of a change. They definitely sounded tougher on that record.
Right. They were darker. The production, recording styles had changed a lot. Tones were different from the early records. It's funny because and that's the same people that produced the Rock and Roll High School songs, and that was the same people that did Rocket to Russia. Yeah. So but it doesn't sound anything like that because just the recording equipment was
George DuBose, by the way.
Say again. What?
Great cover by George DuBose. The cover.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
We just saw George DuBose when we were in Germany, Monty.
Yeah, he lives there. He lives in Cologne.
Yeah, he came out to the show. He came out and hung out with us. He's doing good. He's doing good.
Yeah,
he's got a book as well, right?
A little sidebar here. George and I had a management company. We managed Marky's first band, The Intruders.
Right.
You guys know that, by the way, over there? Everybody over there? Warren knows all about that. I see Warren over there. Hey, Warren.
Hi, Monty. How you doing,
Warren? Yeah.
All about The Intruders,
What's up, Warren?
But so George and I had a company, a little agency there, book management, and we put Marky on the road with Warren.
No,
You had offices in Union Square.
Yes.
I don't know how much you can see this, Chris and Monty, but have you guys ever seen this before?
yes.
Oh, that's great.
I have that one.
Very good.
I wonder where we got the idea for that.
Yeah.
Hey, who are you calling Chris?
I'm sorry, CJ. I'm sorry. It's because Monty calls him that.
Don't worry,
You know
boss.
the story,
I'll
the
take care
quick
of you.
story behind that cover shot is George was taking Polaroid pictures of them standing with the flash didn't go off on one of the shots, and it was
Right.
just backlit. And
Oh,
they saw that. They said, "This is good." It was just an accident. It wasn't
Right.
planned that way. So sometimes accidents work out very
So then
well.
they had to go recreate it, right? They had to go recreate professionally what they had done on the Polaroid.
No, the Polaroid. George would shoot Polaroids of them before, and them standing there to get an idea what the shot would look like
Right.
and then he'd get his camera and shoot the regular camera, the
Right.
regular camera. The Polaroid was just to see what it was,
right.
get an idea what it looked like. But then he started shooting, and the back lights didn't go off, or the front lights. No, the front lights didn't go off, just the back, and then that's what happened.
No, it's that's an iconic cover. That's one of my personal favorite album covers ever made by
Yeah.
anyone. It's just great.
That tunnel's by the carousel in Central Park, by the way. Anybody wants to go there.
Right on.
Hey, let me ask you real quick about George, because I remember a part in this really good book that I have
Ah.
where I think towards the end you're talking about.
Copy. That's the old copy.
I know this is the old. But hey, I bought it when it first came out, and
Good man.
I know
He wants kudos for that, by the way. He wants you to think he's cool because
I
he
just
bought
want
your
you to
book
sign-
the first day it came out.
Can you sign this through the screen there? No, so towards the end of the book, you're talking about how at the final show, George is smashing his camera.
Yeah.
And Johnny's like, "Why are you doing that?" And he's like, "Well, if you're not going to play, then I'm not going to take pictures anymore," or something, right? Is that really happened, or is that just?
Yeah, it's true. George likes to tell that story. He bought it like a cheap old camera just to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. They got it
So it was staged? Is that what you're saying?
stage in front of Johnny, and he made a statement. But it wasn't a real. It was a cheapy camera, but he made his point on that.
Yeah.
His point. All right. He tricked Johnny
George-
anyway.
George is organizing a photo exhibit that's supposed to be going around the world with Ramones photos. I don't know where he's planning on taking it or when it's going to be, where it's going to be, but keep your eyes open for that. Are you aware of that, Monty? Did you submit any photos to that?
I contributed a bunch of pictures. Did you?
Yeah, he got a hold of me, and I think he accepted half a dozen. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, he did. He has a nice idea. He's at the end of the show, he's going to do. I don't know if you've ever been to like Bob Gruen's birthday parties. He puts up he does a lot of prints and puts them up on the walls, and at the end of the party, people just take them down.
Yeah.
Take them home. That's the same thing George is going to do. He's going to put them up on the walls, make prints, and then people can come and take them.
I got a really nice one of Johnny that he took.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, you guys, little guitar nerd question here. Just as far as gear that the guys used back then, did they just get what they wanted? Was it just like, did someone make the choice of what the best gear for them was going to be? As
What
far as
gear are you
amps,
talking about?
guitars, what pickups they used, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, as far as amps go, they always wanted Marshalls and Ampegs. I think they started with like Mike Matthews amps in the beginning with like cheapy little amps,
Yeah.
and then they really wanted Marshalls, and they got Marshalls and Ampegs. And I think the other day when I was watching the interview with CJ, they were sponsored. We got sponsorships by the drum stick company and the Pacey cymbals and guitar string.
Vic for the Sticks.
Yeah, we had several sponsorships over the years.
And we had Dean Markley strings.
Yeah, Dean Markley strings. We always
Right.
tried to get the Marshalls. They wouldn't come behind us, but whatever.
Does anybody definitively know what pickup Johnny used?
Humbucking. See, did you know what's?
Rick Weinman would know.
No, I'll tell you. There's a site. Ian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's a site
I
on
heard it was a DiMarzio that he had dropped in or something.
Mazio's.
Monte, Chris Lamy would know. He knows all that
Chris
stuff.
Lamy and
Chris
Ian, what's
Chris
his
and
name?
Ian Harper.
Ian Harper. Ian Harper has a site. Google Ian
Yeah,
Harper.
it's
He has
Chris
an
and,
amazing site
Chris and
about
Ian's
all
site.
the gear. Every single bass, every single guitar, every single amp, roadies, everything. It's great. They'll tell you all about the pickups.
Awesome. What's it called? What's the guy's name again?
What was it? Ian Harper, right?
Ian Harper.
Chris Lamy and Ian Harper.
Ian Harper has a site, though.
In Harper
Write
Ramon.
that down, kids.
Ramones gear.
Write it down.
Ian Harper Ramones gear, and his site will pop up.
Rockometer.com.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it, Cliff.
That's the great site, man. He's got a lot of stuff.
It's like looks like an old GeoCity site. That's awesome.
In fact, Ian, Chris, and myself, we're thinking about doing a book called Ramones Gear. There's a book called Beatles Gear out. I don't know if you've seen it, Rolling Stones Gear. We're thinking about doing a Ramones Gear book too.
Guitar sound. Yeah.
Yeah, and
dude,
that's the guy,
cool.
Chris, that talked to you one night about your gear.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, his guitars didn't have what looked like humbuckers, so they would have had to have been humbuckers, the little humbucker, the small ones, but they sound like humbuckers. I used them too, like JB Jr. or whatever, and so yeah, this will be neat to see what he did.
Yeah, he'll tell you all about all the guitars and the pickups.
All right, I got one random question to ask. Apparently, the band toured in a van, but the crew toured in a bus. Is that correct?
Well, we're talking about 22 years on the road. We toured and everything. I mean, we had tour buses. The band had tour buses. The band had with station wagons. The band had van. The thing is, in the United States, in Europe, we had tour buses. The thing about it is, tour buses are very expensive, and you got to sleep on the tour buses to make it worthwhile. They didn't like that. I didn't like that. I didn't like sleeping on tour buses either. So what we did in the United States, basically, because they weren't making a huge amount of money, was we do little sections of countries. We like to go to the West Coast, 2 or 3 weeks on the West Coast. The band would go out. We'd have a van brought out to us, and then we'd tour with the band in the van, and the crew, of course, had us. We had tour buses for the crew, because they had to go overnight, sleep in the buses, and get to the venues early. So we did that in the States for later on in the years. But we went through tour buses. If you look at my book, there's several tour buses we've had. They were just very expensive in the United States to tour in. So we developed this kind of thing with the van and truck for the equipment, semi-truck, and the crew had a tour bus.
While I was in the band, we never had a tour bus in the United States.
I was about to ask Monty how much of a nightmare it was to keep tabs on you during Lollapalooza, riding across country on your motorcycle. I think that's fascinating. I mean, was that like an issue, Monty, for you?
Let me tell you something. When CJ joined the band, that was the best thing that happened to them at that time, because Dee Dee was totally out of control. Dealing with Dee Dee and CJ was so like day and night. CJ, be here, be on time, be in the downstairs. He's a Marine. I said, "Hup," and he'd be down there. CJ was terrific. I'd never had any problem with him.
So when he told you he was going to follow on a motorcycle, it was kind of had his moments there that we thought about, but it worked out. Except for 1 or 2 times.
Johnny never voiced any. He's gonna get in an accident, and then we won't be able to play.
Yeah.
Well, because CJ wanted to do it, and then he let him have he let him off the lead there.
But I mean, it goes back in '92. I had gotten to a motorcycle wreck, right? So I started building another bike then, and I told Johnny, I said, "Listen, summer '96, don't book nothing, because I'm going to do a cross country trip." And he told me, "Don't worry, we'll be retired at that point." So I said, okay. So end of '95, we're doing our retirement tour. We're in,
5-year plan.
Right. Well, no, this was the retirement tour. This was it. We were doing our usual little club tour in the States. We were winding down, and then the Lollapalooza offer came up. So when Johnny mentioned it to me, I said, "Johnny, listen, I gave you 4 years notice. I'm not doing it." And I said, besides, we tried to get on Lollapalooza so many times. They turned us down. I was like, you know, you don't need to do that. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. You know, we're doing our retirement tour. And he was like, you know, well, no, you know, we're going to do it. We should do it. Just take your time and think about it. So I thought about it a little bit. I said, listen, how about this? Why don't you get Dee Dee and Tommy back and do the final Ramones retirement tour with the original lineup? I'll come and play. I'll jump up on stage and do a song. You know, maybe I can meet you in a couple cities and jump up and do a song. Or, you know, me and Mark get up or whatever I say. But you should get the original band together and do your final tour with the original band and end with a week's worth of shows at CBGB's. That'll be a very...
Holy moly.
Johnny was like, he sat there, he always like would put his hands on his hips, thumbs forward, you know, with in his hunched over stance, and he when you talk to him, he would look down at the ground and nod his head, and he waited till I was done talking. He said, CJ, you're an old fan. That's why you want to see Dee Dee and Tommy. The young fans, they want to see you and Mark. That's all they know. They've never seen Dee Dee and Tommy. They want to see you guys, you know. He said, take your time and think about it. So that's what
the Guns N' Roses fans.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
You know, I think if it was the regular tour that you did, but they toured with you and they just came out and did like an encore.
Yeah, I thought it would have been awesome.
Way more special.
Yeah, but it would have been incredible. But I mean, could Tommy physically have done it?
No.
Go out.
It would have taken time. Even still,
Tommy would never have done it.
Even if they could have got him up there to do, you know, I want to be a boyfriend, or some of the more early mellow stuff that they did. You know what I mean? Some of the poppier stuff. But the other thing too is that I always, you know, try to get Johnny to do was to slow down the set a little. I was like, we should slow it down a little. We can't do the harmonies. Joey can't even sing. He was improvising all that stuff in between because he couldn't draw a breath between lines. And Johnny was like, no, the fans like it fast. They like to slam dance, and that's how we play it. His famous line to me was, when you have as many years in the business as I do, then you can tell me how to run the band.
Also, I mean, DJ, you did it the right way. I mean, there was specific things that you had to do. You had a van following you.
Yep.
So you had a backup. So we knew that you weren't just out there on your motorcycle like a rider. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we knew, and you were a reliable guy. Come on, you were terrific. We knew you. So at the time, wasn't that? It was a little concerning, and we had the couple of times where you know, had problems, but on the phone,
the law enforcement,
whatever. But generally, you had the backup van, and we knew if it broke down, you'd have something to get to the van, you know. So it wasn't that horrendous, you know. It's crazy.
The last thing I wanted to do was to mess up the retirement tour or to miss a show. That was the last thing I wanted to happen. So, like Monty said, I had a chase vehicle following me while the tour was going on. One time, we actually we got stuck at the Canadian border, and I went to the wrong border crossing, and they held us at the border. And I said to the guy who was in command of the border, I said, listen, I'll put your kids on the guest list, whatever you need me to do. I just got to get out of here and get out of here quick. And he was like, okay. And the guy put the phone down in front of me, and he was like, make the call. I called Monty. I put the commander of the post on the phone with Monty for Monty to give him the guarantee that his daughter and her friend would be on. And then we jumped on our bikes and we headed for the site. But because they were unsure that we would get there in time, the Violent Femmes switched spots with us. They went on in our spot and we went on in theirs.
And Chris, you weren't there, but they did a Ramones set for maybe the first half hour of their set.
That is
Ramones songs.
That is awesome.
Did you guys have a
We came in one day on that tour, and I forget where it was, but we walked into the backstage, and the backstage, every band on Lollapalooza had their own trailer. And, you know, the trailers were air conditioned, they had couches, showers, bathrooms, you know, hospitality. And we walked in one day, I don't know, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, whatever time it was, and Chris, and I forget the kid's name that you were riding with, Chris.
Anthony.
And maybe Richie were just crashed out on the floor
Yeah.
of our backstage of our trailer, and
Yeah.
you guys were just head to toe, covered in dirt. Your clothes couldn't even tell you guys who you were.
Yeah.
There's so much dirt on you guys.
It was, you know, the problem was on that tour was that Metallica was headlining, and later on after Lollapalooza, they were going on to do a headlining tour of the United States. So we couldn't play in a lot of the A markets. We were playing B and C markets, which meant that some of the drives overnight were 3 to 500 miles. So we literally would ride all night long and get to the site at like 10 o'clock in the morning. We'd park the bikes over at the trailer, grab something to eat, and go and catch a couple of hours of sleep in the dressing room, do the show, come off stage, take a shower, eat, get back on the bike, ride overnight again. And there was a week at one point where we did that almost every day for a week straight. I was falling asleep on my bike riding overnight. I was actually falling asleep as I was riding, nodding out. That's how tired I was.
Wow. You're like telling yourself stories. Remember when we did this?
Yeah. Me and Monty, the two old men.
Did you guys ever miss a show because somebody was too sick?
No.
They just played through it no matter how bad they were sick. In the 80s.
I had alcohol poisoning in Canada. I had gone out one night with this girl, drank a whole bottle of vodka, and had drank a whole bunch of whiskey before I even met her. And I had alcohol poisoning, and on stage 2 nights in a row, just puked my guts out the whole time. It got to be such a joke that I started like puking. Mitch Keller, who would be on my side of the stage, was holding a bucket out. I would puke over the bucket onto his sneakers just to break the monotony of like.
Oh, is that how he got the name Bubbles?
The only show.
I sat down on the drum riser at one point because I thought I was going to pass out. I sat down on the drum riser to get through the song.
There was one show. The remote Mark missed the show. One show, and we had to cancel it.
Not because he was sick.
Yeah, and that was the only time we ever on tour didn't play a show.
Now they should be able to just play without drums since they don't listen to the drums when they play anyway.
Yeah.
That was the only time. I mean, we had to cancel shows because Joe was sick before the tours.
Right.
You know? Yeah. But not on tour. That was the only time ever that we missed a show.
Was it hard to keep Joey healthy enough just to play the shows? Because since he was like always, just his body was always tended to be sick all the time.
It was always it was a chore and a half trying to keep him healthy. Yeah, definitely. You know.
They took a team of people. It was Monty and Mitch Keller, really, the two of them constantly keeping Joey propped up to be able to do it. Wow. And especially after 94, he got diagnosed in 94, right, Monty?
Somewhere around that area.
So, I mean, I noticed after 94, he's really became a struggle. There was one time early in the band where we were on tour, and I said to him, I was like, why don't you just take time off? You know, why don't you just tell him you need a couple of months off to really work and get yourself healthy? And Johnny told me the next day, he was like, you know what happens when we take time off? He goes and does projects with other people, or he puts on one of his parties. He doesn't stay home and get himself better. He finds other things to do. He doesn't rest. He said that's why we don't take time off. We just keep it rolling. We keep it rolling because we have a limited amount of time to do it in.
Man, on the road, there was a few times I had to take Joey to the hospitals. You know.
Yeah.
You had a story about him being wheeled out one day in a hotel there, and there's other times I had to take him to a few hospitals. He wasn't in good shape, and but they fixed him up, and we played the show. We never missed a show, which is lucky.
Can I ask you real quick about that? About like with Joey, we heard about this on tour with CJ recently about you having to kind of go drive around, and you talk about it in your book too, where you got to drive around and find the hotel that has the swimming pool because he's got to swim.
Well, right? Yeah, that was one of the things I book for him. Yeah, book a hotel with a swimming pool. He liked to go swim in later years.
Is it like was it like for any reason, or just he just wanted? It was like.
It was good. No, he liked to get in and kind of opened up his voice, and he liked to swim in the swimming pool, do his little exercise. It was good for him.
It was a health thing, really, for his voice.
Yeah. Good. It was good. A little exercise was good. He liked it.
Did he not know that hot tea does wonders?
Oh my God! Well, you know the story about the hot teapot, right?
No.
Monty, didn't he have a teapot blow up on his face on the side of the stage?
Oh, yeah.
He would, for the show, inhale steam. And this was before they realized they have actually steamers, that not teapots.
Right.
And he inhaling one, and it kind of blew up in his face, and he got a bad burn. And he actually did the show. He did the show.
Yeah. Wow.
And he had some bad burns.
Yeah.
The Capitol Theater, I think, in New Jersey.
That's one thing that kind of kept him going too, Joey, was he always had a routine. He always had like a little routine that he did, and he would work up to the show, you know what I mean? He'd take his vitamins and he'd do his stretches. Joey stretched out before he went on stage.
And he had a separate dressing room too, where he'd do his he had a little warm-up tape. He had a boom box, and he'd go into another room and do a whole ritual of warming up. So
I still hear that in my head sometimes. Ave Maria. I still hear when I'm in a dressing room and somebody's talking like in a hallway or a bathroom where there's an echo. It makes me think of that immediately. Immediately.
The band would do their little ritual with the little amps and doing 6 or 7 songs before the show. Joey was in another room warming up. They were professionals, man. They worked at it. They weren't just sloppy, go on stage, you know. That's what people think. They did 3 chords. They just go. They show up, and then they worked at it hard.
Right. Well, were you with the band?
I'm sure Chris and Josh will tell you. Before we go on stage, I still put on my headphones and play to a couple of Ramones songs. I don't get to do it every night because some of the places that we play, I'm not able to do it. But I still put my headphones on and play through a bunch of Ramones songs before I go on stage. It's like a little ritual that I do as often as I can.
You hear it down the hallway. It's almost showtime when you hear Rockaway Beach getting sung from, you know.
No, not Rockaway Beach. It's all Babysitter, man.
Yeah, Babysitter.
Babysitter without downstrokes on the chorus.
Yeah.
We've got actually have a couple of questions that kind of came in through our Facebook page, and it kind of flashes back a little bit to when we were talking about Richie some, and I don't think we quite hit on this, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it out to Monty. It says, I've got a question. How did Richie get into the band, and how did he work with the Ramones, even though he is a highly technical drummer?
He knew some people. He hung out CBGBs, and he knew some people that we knew, and they knew him, and they knew he was available at the time, you know. And as far as working with the band, he fit in pretty well. It took him a while, like every other one, to work into the band, but he was a great drummer, so he fit in very well. He was in the, I think he worked with the Shirts and a couple other bands, and he hung around CBGB, so they kind of knew him a little bit, you know.
So they reached out to him then?
Yeah, they knew him, and through mutual friends, kind of got him back into around the, at the time.
That's really preferable when you have somebody leave and you need somebody else. It's always preferable for you to approach somebody from your own scene that you've seen play and they'll fit the part. Because going through auditions, having people come down and audition, it's torturous. It really is. I did it for a little while, and I'll tell you, it was brutal. It's brutal because
when you were doing your band, when you were getting your band together.
Yeah. Because no matter how much you talk to people and how much you tell them what you're looking for, and people always tell you what you want to hear, and then they show up and it's like, oh, good gosh golly, it's it's really difficult. It really is. If there's somebody from your scene that and you've seen play, and the audition process really is just more a it's not even necessary usually, you know what I mean? If you know somebody who's good and you want them in the band, they're in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless they show up and their attitude sucks so bad that you're just like, I couldn't deal with this guy on tour. Because that's the other thing you have to consider. Having good players in the band is important, but having people that you get along with. I'll take a mediocre player who I get along with good over a really great player who I can't stand looking at. Because you get out on the road for 20 days and you got to look at that guy every day, and that just makes it like every other job.
Speaking of can't stand looking at, you were there. I think, Monte, you were there. Howard Stern, that whole time when Howard was like, look, you can't even look at each other. And Johnny's like, what? I can look at him. And then he looks at Joey.
Yeah.
That was great. Well, Monte, were you there on the Howard Stern?
Yeah, he's an instigator. He wanted to instigate. So that's his job, to get them to fight. That was a big laugh.
Monte, you remember the first time I was on the Howard Stern show? Were you there with us?
Yeah, I think so. What's your...
So when we went in, right, I was a huge Howard Stern fan. I think I told this on the last show too, but I never talked to Monte about this. When I was a huge Howard Stern fan, and I knew how Howard was, so I was really on guard, and I wanted to make sure that he didn't mess with them. So we went in and we sat down, and he's like, "Hey, it's the Ramones, Joey Ramone. Everybody tells me we could be brothers." And he was wearing a shirt that had a snub-nosed 38. It said New York City, it ain't Kansas. And I said to him, yeah, but Joey wouldn't wear a tacky tour shirt like that. So well behaved for the rest of the interview. It was, and I felt bad because I know the guy's got to do a show and everything, but it's so they cut it out. But
he was a big Ramones fan.
Yeah, huge Ramones fan.
And the funny thing about it, he did look a lot like Joey. He talks about that all the time.
Yep.
That's the weird part.
Yeah.
All right. So apparently, since we took one question from Facebook, now there's a couple more. You want to take them, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of follows on from the Richie question. I'm supposed to ask what it will take for CJ and Richie to tour together, and then I'll follow that up with, will Monte be the manager for that tour?
They're paying enough, I'll do it.
I actually reached out to Richie just after we did the we played together for the Modes Right 60th anniversary party in Nashville. We jumped up on stage and did a couple of Ramone songs together. And shortly after that, I reached out to him and asked him if he would be interested in doing some stuff together. But he was releasing his new record entitled, and he already had his band together, and he was getting ready to tour. So he said he wasn't interested, which was I totally understand it. But I reached out to Richie and to Mark, you know what I mean. But at this point, I only have a couple of years left, and I have a couple more albums to do, and I'm really focused on that, and getting my little plan completed before I retire.
So what in the world in Chris's approach to you made you say, yes, I want to take him seriously and see if this guy can be a drummer for me and bring along this guitarist? I mean, what in the world? How did this work?
Because I know your guys' stuff. I've heard your stuff. You know what I mean? I've seen you guys play. So it wasn't a stretch for me to enter into that conversation with him. You know what I mean? I know how much you guys love the Ramones.
Yeah.
So it's like I know he's not going to show up and play like a shitbird and embarrass himself because he's playing with a Ramones. So
I'll tell you what, man. Mike and I, just so you know, Mike and I can hardly even enjoy a live concert from an audience perspective, because you know what I mean. Like you know what it takes once you learn to be a professional on stage.
Yeah.
You can't enjoy it from the other side anymore because it's kind of like the curtains are down and you see what it takes, and so that mystery is gone, right? So Mike and I totally can't enjoy it. But when we saw you guys at that little crappy show in Baltimore, both he and I we just thought it was so good. Yeah. Like we weren't sick of it from beginning to end, and you don't need a second guitarist, man. It's so good. It's just, I'm telling you, it's so great, and all the stuff Josh was playing was really good. Like it was exciting. It was just like I would want to hear that in an album. It was just so good. You should use them on your album, man. I mean, it's just awesome. I don't
really on albums.
Do what?
All those songs are on albums.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is the vibe and the feel, the sound, the presentation. It was just like, this should be the recording. This is the band. This is just so good.
And
you're certainly used to playing with just one guitar player, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
But the funny thing is that was the kickoff for it. But what we sounded like by the time we came back from Europe was just really.
And you just like liked the big sound of the two guitars better?
Oh yeah. Because of the songs that we do, but I mean, my solo stuff really requires two guitar players. But even the Ramones songs that we pick, even especially the mellower ones, "Baby I Love You" and all that stuff, you got to have the two guitars for it. And that was doing the Ramones stuff. That's what I was trying to capture, is really the brilliance of the music. You know what I mean? Because all those little, pretty little Ed Stasium guitar fills in the background and the nice little picking stuff in the acoustic tracks, all that stuff is really important to the Ramones sound. I'm not trying to sound like the Ramones did live. You know what I mean? There's no way anybody's ever going to...
Right, no, your albums sound like... I mean, they just totally fit in with the Ramones. Your two solo albums totally fit in the Ramones discography in every way. Just beautiful. Just really, really, really good. And it's just like, but like Josh is going to give you a better guitar tone than what you have on your albums. I mean, he just is. And I mean, it's just going to be great. So I hope you, whatever you do, I know it's going to be
You
great.
guys are sitting in the same room and he's passing you cash every time you go.
That's right.
A funny thing about, people come up to me a lot that don't know much about the Ramones. They say, "Hey, the Ramones are getting back together." I say, "Well, maybe as a drum circle, what's left? 3 drummers and a bass player."
Yeah.
They don't realize that everybody's dead?
No, they don't. They say to me, "Hey, the Ramones are getting back together." They don't know anything about the group. The Ramones name's out there, but they don't realize that they're... So 3 drummers and a bass player. It was 4 drummers.
There was a girl that came up to us at I think at the same show that George was at in Germany. This girl came up and said, "This was so cool. This is my first time seeing you guys. My first time seeing the Ramones."
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let that go.
Yeah.
Let you enjoy that.
You guys, Mikey does an incredible imitation of Joey Ramone's voice. Really, 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 really good. So if you want to make another Ramones album with Ed Stasium producing, Mikey would probably be available to do the vocals. If people think the Ramones are going to get back together, you can just say they are, and this is Joey, and it's Mikey.
Right.
Let's trying to get checks from all of us tonight.
Yeah, I know. I'm not in the same room. I'm not passing them any money, I swear.
More questions, guys, and I got to get out of here.
All right,
Monty.
Yeah, we got one more here. It says, tell Monty and CJ that Rick Johnson says hello.
Hey, Rick.
Oh, all right.
And it says, ask Monty how big a nuisance Rick Johnson was when the Ramones came down south.
A big nuisance.
Yeah, but he was a good guy.
So he's tuning in. He's enjoying the show.
Rick's a great guy. Hello, Rick. I'm happy to...
Is he a super fan that just drove you guys crazy or something?
He worked in record stores and stuff like that with us, and came on the road quite a bit and saw a lot of shows.
And actually, was a very mellow, laid-back guy.
Yes.
And Johnny really took a liking to him and invited him out with us all the time. Rick hung out with me and partied in my room with a room full of girls a couple of times. Johnny used to invite him out to eat and stuff. He really was there was a handful of fans in the States that really became our real core traveling companions, like
Keithy Huntington and all those guys. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So he probably fed into Johnny's nerd talk about old records and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people knew Johnny liked baseball, so they talked baseball a lot with him. That's how he became a big fan with Eddie Vedder, talking baseball.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't politics, let me tell you, because they were opposites.
Right.
But then they became big friends because of baseball, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, opposite political people can be in the same band and be just fine. Look at me and Mike. So it's all good.
Well, Monty, if you got to get out of here, we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it was super cool meeting you and talking to you like this, man.
It's been
Totally
a great
awesome.
time.
Where can you get your book, real quick? Where's it on sale? Where the new version?
Well, you can get it on Amazon.com. I'm looking for a new publisher, so you can get some used books there. In a few months, I'll have another publishing out. You can get it on Kindle and the ebooks and all that. That's available.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. So it's on iBooks and stuff?
Yeah, it should be on Kindle and all that stuff.
Awesome.
What's the difference between the new book and the old book, Monty?
Well, the first one came out in 2004, and in 2007, people joined and left the band, and we got the Joey signs and the Johnny memorials and a lot of things happened.
All right.
So is the new book a lot thicker than this one, or is it like just
no, it's just a few more pages bigger.
a few more pages? But like, are you?
A couple more pictures.
Okay. So 07 is the new version. And
Yeah.
07 and
Yeah, it says on it. There's here. This look. See? Can you see this? See the little thing on the top says that's the new version.
updated.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
I gave you the book. You got the book, CJ, right?
Yep.
You know what I realized, CJ and Monty, after I got home from Europe and we started talking about the show, and I'm looking at the book, and you kind of get mesmerized by these kind of covers, and then I realized, oh, that's John Holmstrom.
Yeah. I was lucky to have him do that.
You kind of get sucked into it. And then,
The thing, it's an interesting story about the cover. I started the book and I said, what am I going to put on the cover? Usually it's a picture of the band or something,
Right.
But there was 8 different Ramones that I worked with. So
Right.
I came up with the idea, like Wholesome doing me in the van with these 8 Ramones there.
How much did that cost you?
I paid him a decent amount to decide to do it. He didn't want to do it in the beginning.
Inappropriate, Cliff. Inappropriate.
Hey, he said we could ask him anything. I even asked him his age earlier. It's all good, man.
you know how much
That's
how
like
much
asking
you got
a
for
woman
doing
to
this
rate.
guy? So this is also John Holmstrom. This is a new record that CJ put out along with.
There you go. He's great. I love him.
And I don't think he got very much money from that, and I think he was a little upset about it. But great artist. And it's funny though. My sister was over and she was looking at this out on the counter, and she looked at it for like within 5 seconds. She goes, "Yoo-hoo?" Like she noticed the Yoo-hoo bottles that were falling behind.
There's a lot of things on there. You notice the sign. If you notice the sign on the front there, how many miles to go?
Yeah,
See that?
2,263. Yeah.
You know what that is, right?
That's how many shows, right?
How many shows? Yeah.
Now look at the shirt Johnny's wearing.
Right. Yeah. Yankees shirt. Yeah.
Now look at the shirt Joey's wearing.
Right. I'll just have to stick it back up there.
What is it?
Well, another shirt. The thing he's reading, Joey.
Punk
He's
magazine.
reading Punk magazine.
Green Punk. Yeah.
Johnny's wearing a Yankees shirt.
Go ahead and put it up again, Josh. You're presenting.
Yeah. Sorry. You see it?
And there's
Presenting.
CJ at the back there with his mouth open there.
I want to know where I can get one of those Ramones Marshall lamps that you got on the roof there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That one didn't fall off. We had it glued down.
Oh, hey, CJ, when you guys played on, when you played that medley on The Tonight Show
Oh, yeah.
years ago, and you're just headbanging like crazy, like your head's going to fall off.
Yeah.
Were you actually playing at the same time?
No. If you notice, there's one part I stopped playing, I start just banging on the bass. I actually had like a heated conversation with the band over that in the dressing room just before we went out. Because
About what?
unbelievably, I could not believe that they agreed to do that.
To do a medley?
Well, it was an Elton John song, a Madonna song. It was like, first off, I was disgusted that we would even do anything that had anything to do with MTV because they never supported us.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I told Johnny, Gary Kurfirst is getting us to do this dog and pony show to earn favors for his young up-and-coming bands. I was like, so why would we do this? It's embarrassing. I was like, I'm actually embarrassed. So I was going to wear my Hell's Angel SS shirt on stage. You know what I mean? And Joey flipped out about it because it's got the SS thing on it, and he's like, there's a lot of Jews in Hollywood. I was like, well, I really don't have, I wasn't thinking of it that way, but it's a Hell's Angel shirt, you know what I mean? So I was like, just trying to be as offensive as I possibly could. But it was, I just felt like it was really a low point in their career for them to do that.
Well, there was another time, though, where you guys did a Ramones medley. It was all like Ramones songs. I thought that's the one that's in the picture in my head where you're just banging your head like crazy, like you're so young and excited, but you had real long hair. It wasn't like when you first joined the band and you had shorty, spiky hair. It was like you had real long hair and your head banging like crazy.
At the MTV Music Awards. So what would that have been on? A Ramones medley?
Yeah, but it was like on a Tonight Show. It was on one of them late night shows. But it was like you're banging your head banging so hard. It's like I can't imagine you were really playing.
I was probably playing.
Really?
Yeah, I used to do that live all the time. I watch videos of myself. I'm like, wow, no wonder why I can barely move my head in the morning. Now my neck is gone. My neck is shot. But it was, I was pretty aggressive on stage.
All right, so
Monty, you got to roll.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump too, guys.
Thank you so much, all. Thank you all for coming out and doing this. Very, very, very cool. We hope that we'll all be hanging out in real life sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on.
Yeah, thanks again, Monty.
Okay, my pleasure.
Go buy.
Good luck, man. Sell a mint. Make a lot of money.
That's right.
Europe, July and August, fellas.
See you then.
Are they allowed to announce it now officially?
Yeah, we're going. It's on.
Good.
Yep.
Up to him. I wasn't going to say anything about it.
Now I just got to talk you guys into making a record with these jokers, man. It'll be everything you could imagine.
We'll be talking soon, fellas.
Awesome.
All right. Sounds good.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Cool, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for Warren for coming on too.
Yeah, definitely. He actually here, let me see.
He jumped off without saying anything.
He did. Yeah, he's a teacher and he has to get up incredibly early in the morning, but he did send me a text right after he left with a bit of trivia. So let's see what he says.
Let's do this trivia and then
let me read it first just to make sure it's appropriate. Hold on.
I'm sorry. By the way, I'm sorry I wasn't looking at the chat, guys. I apologize. I always forget to do that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and I'm like embarrassed. Oh,
this is how we communicate with you.
I know. I'm sorry.
All right,
I'll get better. I'll get better.
we yell at you without publicly embarrassing you.
Okay, here we go. Little trivia from Warren. He says, watching in the head before bedtime. So he takes his phone in while he's doing his thing and he watches our show. Here is a little bit of trivia for you. Richie dated Annie Golden, the singer from The Shirts. She is better known today as Norma, the silent inmate on Orange is the New Black.
Oh.
I don't watch that show.
I don't watch it either, but for viewers that do.
That was going to be a question. I was going to say, we'll post it up on Facebook.
Wait. The silent inmate. Well, she's probably
silent inmate. She's known as Norma, the silent inmate on New Black.
That's not a trivia question. That's just
it's just a bit of trivia for you. I guess just throwing out there.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a question. It would just be a trivia.
A question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you go to a bar and there's trivia night, and they ask about Richie Ramone and how he's connected with the silent inmate from Orange is the New Black.
And that's never going to be there.
I know. Because nobody's
never going to be there, yeah.
The questions that you'll get are going to be like, name the other drummer that played in the Ramones besides Marky, Tommy, and Clem Burke.
Yeah. So, I guess, I mean, that was a good show.
Can I ask you, can we just talk about general stuff now? Instead of
yeah, we can go for a few more minutes. Sure, why not?
Or Making a Murderer. How far are you guys into it?
Well, I have watched.
Christy watched the whole thing. I just know about it from a superficial outside of it. I wasn't really paying attention. Mike, are you watching it?
I want to. Haven't started it yet. Me watching a TV show and getting dedicated to a TV show is really tough.
So I'm like halfway through them, 5 episodes.
You could watch 3 seasons of Trailer Park Boys over a weekend.
I've
You
watched
can't
the entire series 3 times, so yeah, I can do that. Yeah,
You watch strangers you don't even know in Hangouts.
I do. Well, I don't watch them. I just listen. I have the earbuds in, and I couldn't give a crap what they look like. I just listen. Yeah, I mean, like, no one needs to watch us. We're not necessarily fun to watch. You could just listen to us, and it would be fine, right?
Kind of
I
weird.
think I'm pretty fun to watch. I get animated. Chris is fun to watch.
Hey, Cliff, you know what's fun to watch?
Me paying attention to the chat.
Yes,
Chat
the side chat is fun to watch.
Side chat's fun to watch, yeah. And just for the record, for the Absolute Awesome Facebook page, I tried to share that on my page, but it came across as if the Absolute Awesome show was sharing itself.
Correct.
I guess because I'm an administrator or something. So
yeah, there's a
Sorry
little
about
drop
that.
down. You have to change it. You have to change it to you.
I was doing the show as I was doing it, so that's why there's 2 posts on there about that, and that's why when you said there's questions on the Q&A on the Facebook, I was like trying to find it, and I'm like, what? And then we have a Q&A on this thing, but that's not working right now. So
yeah.
Sorry about anyone that had questions and couldn't figure out how to ask us, ask them. But
yeah, next time we'll be a little more clear about that. But we did get a couple in. That was good. So
yeah,
and we got responses back too, thanking us for for asking the questions. So
yeah,
awesome.
But
Hey,
we did want to make a point of trying to make this shorter.
A little bit of Huntington's promotion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sweet 16, Fun and Games, Rockets Harmonia, Rock and Roll Radio, and Punk Sounds are now available on on Spotify and everything. It's the first time the first 4 records have ever been available as standalone albums on any of those places, so that's pretty cool. Punk Sounds, it was kind of gone for a while, now it's back, has an extra song on it, pretty cool. People can check that out. Yeah, those are Huntington's records, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. People watching. So
I'm looking on Spotify now. I don't think they're quite up there yet.
No, they're not on Spotify yet. It's but they're on they're on Tidal, Amazon, and Google Play, and they'll be on Spotify and iTunes in another couple days. So, pretty cool.
Cool, good deal.
So, what shows are we playing this year?
We're getting there. We're getting there.
No, I mean, we're playing one show in July for sure, a big show, a real big show, and that's called Audio Feed. It's July 3rd. We're playing at 9 o'clock at night. We're gonna have we'll find some way to make it a special set list. I don't know. We don't know quite sure for sure what we're gonna do yet, but we'll make it special somehow. We actually do know what we're gonna do, but we're just not gonna say it. But anyway, but it's gonna be special. We're gonna play all Madonna songs.
Yes.
If you go back and watch,
headbang like crazy.
Yes.
If you go back and rewatch this episode 3 or 4 times, because they're all going to do that, there's little clues throughout the episode that will tell people what we're doing. So that's one way to find out.
Are there?
There are.
Yeah, one was an accident. I was just.
One was that he actually kind of mentioned it.
No, I didn't.
Well, pretty much. And then we also were talking about the guy who did the.
I never mentioned anything about
maybe you didn't mention it. Maybe you held something up to the screen. I don't know.
Yeah, but that was just me trying to say, do you recognize this? Because it looks just like what we were talking about. It was our imitation of Too Tough to Die. What the heck are you talking about?
I don't even know what I'm talking about then. Maybe I don't know what we're playing. I'm confused. Sorry.
I don't.
Not playing.
Anyway.
I think we should play the live album from beginning to end.
At the same speed.
Yeah, I mean that's really what we've been playing for 10 years. 15,
we should say the same talking points in between each song.
Yes.
And then I guess
that's all of you.
I guess if DJ kind of let the cat out of the bag, I guess Josh and I can say that we're going back to Europe.
Yep. Assuming that plans that people make work out, because they say if you want to make God laugh, you'll make plans.
First. Yeah.
So, assuming that plans that are being made actually come to fruition, you guys are going to be freaking going to Europe for 7 weeks in July and August. Is that right?
We were told to block off July 10th through the 25th. So I don't know if that's
August.
And see, then you should come back and make an album with them and with him. That'd be so cool. That'd be really cool if he took you guys like all out. Like, if he was gonna make an album with you all, would he do it here, or would he traipse you guys out to L.A. or something?
Well, see, the thing is that he works really closely with two guys from the Adolescents, Dan and Steve, and they play with them on they went to South America with them, and then they have Pete Sosa, who plays in the Street Dogs, who plays drums. But all those guys live in Southern California, and that's where he's recorded his last two albums. I'm assuming I don't know. I'm not going to put words in the guy's mouth. I mean, we're East Coasters, so who knows? I don't know.
Y'all will find out when it gets there.
If we ever get the call.
Man.
Right.
I don't know.
Kind of was hoping that maybe we could not talk about all this live, whereas my boss can watch it and I can go in tomorrow and she can be like, oh, guess what? You're fired. Because I know what you're up to.
We're just kidding. We're just.
You got an edit button on there, Mike?
Just joshing you.
Yeah.
April Fools.
Thanks, guys. No, I have no idea. Like obviously, like Cliff said, there's a lot that needs. We don't know anything. All we were told was, this is what we're thinking, and we were like, okay, cool.
Right, and reality plans have a way of not necessarily, they don't always come true exactly. I mean, how many plans have we made and have not done it? So you never know what's going to happen. But it's pretty awesome to be told to make that plan. And so far from what we know about CJ, he seems to be somebody who lives up to that stuff. But I just mean, you just never know what's going to happen in life. For all you know, you're not even here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So all that kind of stuff. So
pretty sure, Korea's trying to bomb everybody, and ISIS is trying to track us down because of the T-shirts that we wore. So we're really who knows if we're even going to make it that far.
Yep.
Yeah, we might die tomorrow, according to.
Right. That's what we're trying to say.
Well, it's 11 o'clock.
Yes.
This is a good 2-hour point to say goodnight, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
But the main point is 2016, we're going to have fun. We're going to try to get some stuff done. We're going to try to kind of further this little music thing that we do a little bit here and there, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We got music stuff. We got this YouTube stuff. We got...
I got my solo album. Hey, how you doing on that, Mike?
Oh, it's coming along great.
Have you got any more vocals on it or anything?
No.
Hey, Mike, think this episode will air? Since we asked Monty where he could buy his book, and since we're in a dispute with one of the outlets now,
Yeah, I think we're good because I think he said you could go to the Amazon and get it, like the Amazon, like over.
Rainforest.
Yeah. No links. No.
So there's little pygmies standing on the banks of the shores and with very tall wives.
Ready to hand you the book.
With very tall wives standing on the shores of the Amazon River with books waiting to sell them to you.
That's exactly what he said. The
last time I was in the Amazon, I picked up this book.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. 2 weeks from now, we'll have a guest. We were working on one, but we'll see who it is. We'll try to get that out as soon as possible. Yeah. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for watching, sticking around, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. See you guys.
Awesome.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.